getting played to. Yeah, Zan Stewart. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my friend, my longtime friend, Zan Stewart. Hello, Zan Stewart.
Hi, Cathy, Segal-Garcia. How you doing?
Doing good, man. It's a beautiful day here today. I don't know if it's really beautiful
Yeah,
there,
no,
but it's
yeah, it's gonna
beautiful
be
here.
up here in the Bay Area. It's gonna be 85 today, so which is hot for
Yeah.
us, right?
Yeah.
So my little cabin here, I live in a little cabin. It's gonna get very hot, but it'll cool down. And tomorrow it's starting to head back down toward the
Yeah.
Mediterranean tomorrow.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just doing a
Oh
few
no,
extra
man, no,
steps.
everything is all good, man.
I like to bring up a window in YouTube because some people um, don't do Facebook, and I want them to be able to chat with us. So I go. I'm going to teach you how to do this. It's pretty easy. I think I can teach you. I can teach you definitely basic stuff. So
Well,
all right.
you've only done 400 of them, so you ought to know something.
I know. I know. That's so true. What number are you?
No,
You're number 415.
that's a good number, man. Yeah.
I
I
think
mean, it's
so. It
pretty
has.
amazing, Kathy. I mean, I know a lot of people say this, and that what you've done is really wonderful. I mean, it's really wonderful. You've given exposure and information about exposure to information about a lot of people, and it's a gift. You're making a great offering here. You really are, and I don't mean that just because you. I'm here. I mean, I think that it's really a wonderful thing. And one of the things I have done in my life and looking back over things is like I got to celebrate a lot of people and the life that I've lived. In that the work I did as a jazz journalist, I got to celebrate a lot of people, including you. And so, it's wonderful. This music needs exposure, right? It needs exposure. This isn't the Grammy show, man. I mean, it's not.
Sure isn't.
The Grammy show is not one hip straight head, jazz person after another. No, that's not it. But anyway.
Yeah, that's really so true. I mean, see, this is the kind of subject that I like to really talk about because it's it doesn't have boundaries really. It's kind of intangible. It exists like your writing, my singing, my video thing. These things exist in I think what I call the aesthetic universe. And it's important to feed that aesthetic universe. And doing this show, I have had a new appreciation for artists such as ourselves, because everything we do touches art. Um, and I have a new appreciation that artists are all over the planet, much more than we think. It's not the straight people with no art in their lives at all are actually probably the minority actually, and we're actually keeping the planet going. Now in another world there might be another planet where we are featured, but on this one there's some kind of mind trip that we're not featured, but we really do keep the planet going. That's my feeling.
That's a good thought, man. It's a really good thought. Yeah, no, um, I think that I mean for the most part, making art is a positive experience, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what keeps the planet going is positive, not negative.
Right.
Positive is what keeps everything going, and what gives us inspiration um, and gives us the ability to get up after we fall down, as we all do all the time. You know,
Yeah.
particularly if you're trying to be, you know, uh, the word, artist, creative, you're gonna, you're gonna mess up. It just doesn't. There's no way you can't. And then, but but there's a way of finding and keeping going, and that's an inspiration to other people. It should be
Yeah.
anyway. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. I mean, that's, especially when you're a performer, I think you come to realize that because, you often ask yourself why you're performing, right? And
Hey,
then
no, no, no.
yeah,
Yeah.
and as any performer, but especially I think singers because we use words and words to convey emotions. We get a lot of people coming up and saying that they were touched, you know, and if they're touched, that they turn around and they've somehow been changed, right? So then they exhibit that change or use it, right?
Well, it's funny. That's one of the things that I'm thinking about over the years is that w- artists, creative people, are offering something we're offering. Well, number one, what we're offering is love. Hopefully, hopefully we're involved with what we're doing because we love it, and therefore we're transmitting love when we offer it. And we'd like to hope that somebody would take that and put it into themselves, right? And
Yeah,
expand their life, whatever way, whatever. Maybe they make a better mashed potato tonight, or whatever,
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I think
yeah, yeah.
right. I mean, I somewhere I came across the line that I really like. I cannot afford the luxury of a single negative thought. Now, it's a nice ideal to live up to. It's very hard to live up to that ideal, but I think that's a good ideal, man. It's like, you know, let's be the ones, as Gandhi said, let's be the change that we want to see in this world.
Yeah,
And if we don't embody it, then how's he going to get around,
yeah,
And
yeah.
you know, right?
Yeah, we have a number of people on here, by the way, and Mark Baldrige said, the both of you are right about music. It's important, but I also read an article on how music, especially during the pandemic, became more important to a lot of people because of the lockdown. I believe that, Mark. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's absolutely true.
One of the things I was talking with my pal Susie Hansen, the great Latin jazz violinist, last night before, and we were talking about. I thought one of the things that I thought was that once the pandemic had subsided, there would be an upsurge in live performances, that people would see how much they needed to see musicians are live. And I'm not sure that's happened yet. And I'm not sure that's going to happen. I mean, so many places have not are gone or not coming back, which is it's so sad, man. But music is music is tremendously important. Music is tremendously important. It really is. You know, I think it is the means of communication beyond speech, maybe read, that touches people the most is music, and
Yeah.
it's universal, and it's essential. It's just
Yeah.
essential.
So I'll just say for our audience once again. So Zan has been a jazz journalist for many years, and in the old days when we met, he was playing sax and also writing. And then as he said, he wrote about me in the newspaper and like the whole normal scene. And he also wrote about all the big jazz people. And I think you're playing like what we just heard actually reflects your whole your interest I'm guessing this, and we'll talk about it, but I'm guessing it reflects your initial falling in love with jazz, like the reasons that you fell in love with jazz. So the people that you write about and how you play now, very much straight ahead and, straight ahead, bebop, I think that whole period of time, I'm guessing that you fell in love with that and then just never let go. Is that true?
Well, it's we go back to memories, and my memory is the I remember two pieces of music from my childhood. My dad had a phenomenal record collection. You can see some of them up on the wall there behind me. Those are 78s. I've got about I don't know, I've got about 1,000 of his 78s, and one of them was the first song I can remember is Chemo Kaimo by Nat King Cole. It's called Chemo Kaimo, and then in parentheses the Magic Song, and the other one was Dynamo A and Dynamo B, which was my misunderstanding of Dynamo. It was a 78. It was a Dizzy Gillespie 78 on Dial Records. 1946, I think it came. But Dynamo A was not a different tune than it was a flip side, right? But anyway, that was I remember that from about age 5 of hearing that. And you know, balu dalu dalu we balu dalu dalu. I can still, I remember it. I remember and um yeah, it I think music, for some of us, music is like well, it is a calling. We're hooked. We're hooked, like maybe the first time, right? The first time we hear something, and that's it. I mean, look at you. You've been involved with music all your. I mean, singing with your sister. I mean, the whole thing, singing at home, and the whole thing. You know, I started taking clarinet lessons when I was 6. So and it's even the time I didn't play, I was playing. I mean, I look at the I one of the shifts in my life was I stopped playing clarinet when I was about 10, and I picked up saxophone when I was 15. But in the 5 years that I didn't play, that's when I really fell in love with jazz in a very, very deep way. I think that I think musicians are life. There's a reason. There's a reason that we could go into different thoughts about why that is, but some of us are born to be musicians. We're born to be musicians. I mean, maybe we were musicians in the last life. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean that just brings to mind like my thoughts, and I won't go too deeply into this because it's kind of woo woo. But
Woo, man, woo is actually not so bad. Yeah, but because the many of the truths that certainly that I believe and that many other people believe too are intangible, man.
yeah,
You know, the infallible law of cause and effect. It's almost intangible. Now, obviously, you know, if you look the other way and put a knife into your arm, well, then yeah, that there's a karma, right? But a lot of things you can't. Can you see? Can you see the immediate effect of the golden rule, treating others as you would like them? Not necessarily, but it's true.
yeah,
You want to treat others the way you would like to be treated,
yeah.
except for some people, I guess. I don't know. Or Vladimir Putin,
Well,
man, what's he thinking? Jeez.
yeah. I don't know. His universe is really fucked
No,
up.
no, it's the man. One of the things that I feel that is so important, at least to me right now, is to have compassion for someone like Vladimir Putin. I used to be able to say his name properly because I spoke Russian for a while. is
Mm.
how sad it is that he's taking a beautiful human life, his own beautiful human life, and he's just destroying it. Not to mention destroying others. Not to mention how many, it's so sad, man. It's just so sad.
That's true, actually. One day I was kind of meditating, and I decided that I should send affinity to Putin. Because it's like you say, you don't have to like what a human is doing to send them affinity. You
No,
can send them affinity, and actually, it will make them. I believe it will make them connect with you. And so you can actually, it's a wave, and you can actually connect. And then who you are can go into that person. Because if you don't send them affinity, you're not connected. That's totally it.
right,
So that is I think it's a way of what we can do. Because what can we do?
right. On my end, what I would do is I would pray for someone like him or pray for Donald
Yeah.
Trump that
Yeah.
that they would wake up to their basic human divinity.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, yeah, good thoughts.
Yeah. Um, so what I you I you I,
I know that one. Yeah, of
well,
course.
when did I want to know when you started writing? Why did you start writing?
Um, okay, I started writing in high school. Actually, I there was a little mimeographed. I grew up in Ohio. I'm from LA, born in LA, but I moved to Ohio when I was with my family. Moved to Ohio, which is up in Ventura County. 1955. I was 11 and three quarters, I guess, pretty much. And at the in Ventura, there was a mimeographed jazz paper, Paul Affel's Jazz Report, I think it was. And I went to the Monterey Jazz Festival in 1960, I think, first time, and I wrote a review of that. In this, but that was the way I got into writing was later. And it's a funny little story. I'd gotten out of, I'd gone to UCSB, University of California, Santa Barbara, and took film studies. I was having a memory about this yesterday that um, I was up in Marin County in '72, and I felt it was time to go back to school. I'd started many years before, um, and I really wanted to go to music school, either Berkeley or Illinois or Indiana. And that time, those or North Texas, those were the ones that were known. Those were the big names. Um, but man, I didn't have confidence. I didn't have it was it's but I didn't have confidence. So I went back to UC. I went to school to UCSB, and I took a degree in film studies, which was really a liberal arts degree, a writing degree. It turned out it was just a right. It paved the way for the career I ended up in. I was working
Yeah.
in a record shop in Isla Vista, which is right next door to the university. Um, and there was a record store called Funky Junkie, and spelled Funky was Phunky, and Junkie I think was Jie or Y. Anyway, it was owned by CBS, Columbia
Huh.
Broadcasting System. At one point, had a chain of record stores called Discount Records Incorporated,
Huh.
and they closed all the stores. And all the records from all these stores across the country, and I'm not hundreds of stores, but they had maybe 10 or something, ended up in Isla Vista at this record shop. And there was some records I mean, like if you wanted anything, any of the National Geographic records or, French jazz, we had like stacks of French jazz, all this stuff around. Anyway, I was working behind the counter, and a woman named Karen Stabiner, friend of mine to this day, came into the store and asked the guy that was standing next to me, who was the manager of the store, a guy named Greg Barr, if he wanted to, she worked for she was one of the co-founders of the Santa Barbara News and Review, which is a local free paper in Santa Barbara, out once a week. And she asked Greg, who she knew because he was on the radio, on the rock station in town, if he, one of the rock stations, I can't remember which one, if he would like to interview Hampton Hawes. And he says, gee, I don't know who Hampton Hawes is. And there's me. Oh, I knew, and so we ended up interviewing Hampton Hawes, and I ended up interviewing. I turned in the story, but the story didn't run. But then she offered me a column in the Santa Barbara News and Review, a
Wow. Cool.
bi-weekly column. And so I started writing. Then. I was playing horn. And it took me a long time to get it together, to get any kind of practice routine going. I mean, I think about listening to stories of, like listening to your story, or like I was listening to Robert Kyle's the other day, or Doug Webb's. Being involved, if you go to a music school, you get involved in a musical community. You've got
Yeah.
all these people, but whereas if you're if you're just a player,
Yeah.
then it's just like it happens as it happens. So
Right.
I started writing these stories, and the first stories are kind of interesting because they're about how to get involved with jazz. I would tell people, hey, go down to the library, there's all kinds of records waiting for you. Just trying to turn people on to jazz. And then I started writing stories about different people, and that's how it started. That was 1975. um, and I wrote for them. I wrote until, and then I moved.
Did you actually interview people, or did you write from your
Oh,
own point of view?
yeah. I wrote. Yeah, I interviewed a lot of people. One person I didn't interview, but I wanted to, was Stanley Turrentine. He was in town for some gig, and I ended up calling him up twice and waking him up both times, man. So he didn't want. It's like, hey, I want to go to sleep, So yeah, I interviewed Chick Corea. I interviewed Herbie Hancock, Jack DeJohnette. Was Weatherport around? Anyway, I interviewed a lot of people. I interviewed.
That's so much fun. Oh my God, I have to ask you more about that, but I wanted to say Mike Campbell is here and he's sending love to you.
Mike, hey man, how you doing, brother? Good to hear you.
Um, so wow, I'm just imagining that the interviews especially would be so much fun. I mean, I have done a few live interviews. Actually, I interviewed Peter Erskine once, which was really fun because I learned some really fun stuff about him.
Peter,
Um,
Peter's into Elvin. Peter is one of the chief proponents of Elvin Jones on this planet, and that's such a beautiful thing, man.
huh,
I'm a huge Elvin guy. Elvin is really it for me. Actually,
yeah,
not Elvin, not necessarily with John Coltrane. Elvin more
yeah.
maybe is a house drummer at Prestige and at Blue Note, when he was more of a hard bop drummer. Uh, my favorite, really, I think. Well, one of my favorites. So many great drummers. Yeah, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, 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 no problem. I mean, tell us about one of your favorite interviews. I'm sure there were
my,
many. If
One of my
if you,
favorite. Well, Alvin Jones was a great interview. I interviewed him
oh,
he was with the jazz machine down at the Lighthouse in Hermosa Beach, and as so many people that uh, that played the Lighthouse stayed at the Sea Sprite, which was I think right across the parking lot or something. And the thing I remember about Alvin was that he fell in love with drums because of watching parades go by his house in Pontiac, Michigan. That was the way he fell in love with drums. Alvin from the great family, of course, of the Jones brothers, Hank Jones, eldest, Thad Jones, next eldest, and the eldest.
Right, right.
Um, and
Incredible
he
family.
loved to read. He loved to read science fiction and anthropology. And I thought, man, that's something you would just like, what? You know? Another interview from that same area was when I interviewed Art Blakey. I think it might also have been at the Sea Sprite, or I think so. And he was wild. He really was, man. He talked about one of the things he said was, "Jazz is a mistake," and it's like, well, you cover it up, right? Why not? You find a creative way, and all of a sudden now you're embellishing everything, right? And of course, there's always Sonny Rollins, man. Sonny Rollins was a wonderful interview. My first interview with him was 1988. There was a place. It was a place over off of Melrose called La Park. I don't know if you ever heard of that hotel. It's like west of La Cienega.
Yeah,
Melrose,
maybe. Yeah, 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 yeah. It was really nice, right?
yeah, nice place. And
Yeah.
Sonny and I spent. I was his second interview in a row. David Weiss, remember David? He used to write for the Examiner and then went on to become Was Not Was.
Who
Uh,
was that, David? What?
David Weiss.
I don't remember
Weiss.
that.
He wrote for the Examiner in the 70s.
Uh, I don't remember.
Anyway, and then he and Don, he was from Detroit, and his brother Don, I don't know what Don's real last name is, but he's known as Don Was. He's now president of Blue Note.
Oh
I,
yeah,
yeah,
sure.
and they formed a group.
That
Well,
was,
that was
did you say that was his that wasn't his brother, right?
no, he was a brother, you know,
Uh,
a non-familial brother, right? Just
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
homie brother.
Yeah.
Uh, so Sonny had talked to him, and then I came and I was next, and we talked for about 2 hours, and at the end he said I got to stop because it just says, "Zan, this is almost like hanging out," and I thought that was coming from Sonny Rollins. I mean, Sonny Rollins was my guy. I was like, what?
I
Oh,
hung out with Sonny Rollins, yeah.
oh man, no, that was one of the nicest things he told me in that interview was that I told him the first time I went to see him was at Shelley's Manhole when Shelley's was on Cahuenga, just down the street from Catalina's, the original location. I think 16 something. And I fell asleep. Here I go to see my idol. I use that word. Never thought of him as an idol, but just somebody that I was just fabulous. So, and I go and I fall asleep, and he says, "That's okay, Zan. That meant you were relaxed." I had to say, what a gift, right? You go to see one of your favorites, and you fall asleep. He says, "Hey, that's okay." Steve Walton told me about playing someplace where Bird was there, and Bird fell asleep behind the piano bench.
Yeah, that I've heard musicians actually say that they fell asleep on the gig. Yeah, that's really an interesting. That's pretty interesting. I mean, I can understand falling asleep in the loudest music going on, just falling asleep. It's like, I don't know where your brain goes,
Yeah,
but
man. No, I hear you. Yeah.
you know, I was I was listening to you and suddenly I remembered, and I don't know why I should suddenly remember, but you were the one who was responsible for me going to Japan.
You reminded me of that recently. I was like, yeah, that, and I was trying to think how that happened. It must have been because
You met
I
a woman, you met a friend of yours, a female friend, who asked you if you knew of a duo who would want to go to Japan for a month.
wow,
And so you called me, and I got one of the great piano players in town here was a guy named Will Bulware, and not Wilbur Ware, but Will Bulware. Fantastic player, just wow, really great player.
right.
And he said, yeah, and so we went to Fukuyama, Fukuosha. I can't remember. Fukuosha. Anyway, we went there, had a very nice gig, and there was a Japanese man on vacation from Kobe who owned a school and booked some of his teachers. And he happened to come in, and he asked me if I wanted to come to back to Japan and tour around with Phil Strange, who was working for him. He was a teacher for him.
That's like,
Uh, yeah, and that started my long relationship with Japan. So thank you, Zan. See,
no, no,
it's
that's beautiful.
really, it's like
No,
relationships. That's what, it's kind of the woof and warp of the material.
that's right. No, no, no. It's what that's wonderful to be able to have done that. That's really wonderful. You know.
Yeah. Big part of my life, Japan.
Well, I
Big
think
part.
I read recently. I mean, I don't know if it's still 25 years. You've gone to Japan for 20 more. Well, it's more than that. It's more than
Yeah, over 30 years. Yeah. Yep.
that's
As a
wonderful.
matter of fact, the next CD that I have scheduled for release, which will be in May, is I found a nice DAT tape of Phil and I live uh, from '92, and I mean, I have a lot of duo albums, but nothing like live. Live, it's a whole other thing. So it's pretty cool, the music, and we were very tuned into each other and a lot of humor. He and I had like stupid humor, and he spoke a little, he's kind of fluent in Japanese by then. So it was, yeah, it was a great time. So I'm putting that out.
Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, that's you. Congratulations on your CD collection, man. That's really
Thank you.
wonderful, man. You put out what is now?
Oh,
This will be 14? No, more 20.
something
Wait a minute, 20?
14 or 15.
Yeah,
No,
14.
14 or 15.
Oh,
But one of my friends, Dan Davila, has been extremely gracious in helping me for the last four albums, I think, something like that. And he's a supporter of mine, which is just absolutely lovely and real a really great person, great human being. And he's happy to support in this way, which is,
well,
I mean, I feel very blessed about that. Thanks, Dan. He's here.
how many great artists had patrons?
Yeah.
So many had paid. I mean, that was the way. So much of the music, so much of the great music was via patronage. How
Yeah.
did artists? I mean, artists don't make, generally, unfortunately, artists don't make much money. They,
Yeah.
no, I ran across something when I was working at the Times, the Los Angeles Times, just to spell it out. Um, I don't know where I got this, and it just it was something like 85% of all artists make less than $10,000 a year or something like that. And this was a long time ago. This was in the 80s. And for some reason, I don't know, I guess I just believed it. It seemed to make sense because so many people were scuffling, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You know what I just You would love this. I'm just going to show you very briefly. Do
Yeah.
you know the name David Amram?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
Well, David and I are friends, and he shared this with me. I won't play it. Oh no, that's
Come
Joe
on, you
being.
do it. Do that. Show us.
It's this. This is called Pull My Daisy. It's a 1959 movie that uh, typifies the Beat Generation. See right here?
Uh,
And it was adapted by Jack Kerouac. And he talked through it. He provided improvised narration, and Allen Ginsberg was in it, Peter Orlovsky and Gregory Corso, and David was in it as well as a musician. So, but check this out. I'll just play a little to give you guys the
yeah.
feel of what it is.
Rex Ross and W.H. Auden and Louise Bogan and all the poets. But burning in the purple moonlight, at the same time, if they want to, they turn over their little purple moonlight pages in which their secret naked doodlings do show. Secret scatological thought. That's why everybody wants to see it.
Yeah.
Anyway, pull my daisy, 1959.
Right. Now,
Isn't that cool?
one of the CDs I sent you, my second one,
Yeah.
that's with that's a poet record. It
Yeah.
yeah, and one of the poets is David Meltzer, and David
Oh.
Meltzer was a beat poet. David Meltzer was from New York, but he ended up in San Francisco in 1957, and he knew Kerouac. He knew all those guys. Uh,
Can we play one of these?
yeah, why don't you?
What,
Well,
yeah, what would you,
well,
which
there's
one would you like to play?
well, we could play one with if we play David, then let's see. I gotta find it. Where is it?
David was from 13 to 19. There's Monk, Pepper,
Yeah,
Cowboys, Trump.
yeah. The monk one. The monk one's really good. The monk one's good.
Okay, good. I'll play that. And if it's not this one, just tell me, but
Thelonious Monk dies on my 45th birthday. Years ago, a Seattle DJ told me this story. Thelonious was playing here with the Giants of Jazz group, dodged all requests for interviews, but I got through somehow and found him in his hotel room, lying down. His silence unhinged me, but I kept talking, and after a while he'd say something, nothing really, a grunt, and I asked him what it was that he did. I mean, what he thought when he played, some dumb thing like that, like what he thought his music did. Monk didn't answer. He kept looking at the second-hand circle, the electric clock face on the dresser, then looked at me and said, "I put it down. You got to pick it up."
that's great. Oh my God. Let's hear another one. They're very short. Which other?
Well, let's hear, because I think Julie Rogers is David's widow, and she said she was listening. So let's do what I liked about dealing with David. Didn't want any improvisation behind. He didn't want to go back and forth. His rule was, you play, I'll read, you play. Whereas Julie Rogers, we improvised. And so I would say, let's see, what's a good one here? Yeah, let's just do this. Let's do the Juice, number 2.
Okay.
the juice. My intense juices want to create themselves, lace overnight, the hum of stars swinging their skirts toward heaven. Down here on earth, everything is ripe. Laughter shining on the teeth of the wide grin that knows it is time. Pop the lid off the ordinary language of remembering that slave driver. Curl of a whip wrapping me up. Break out into the leisurely plum of this moment, tasting.
I said it was going to be back and forth. That turns out that was, yeah, that was a really fun record to make, and it was right toward it came out toward the end of David's life. He died 5 years ago, New Year's Eve. And he didn't have the energy to tour. I thought it would be really fun to go out and play. David was kind of a star. He was a star poet. He along with Michael McClure and Diane DePrima, I think were the last three of the beat poets. And it was really wonderful to meet him. That guy, he had a jazz record collection, Cathy, you wouldn't believe, man. It was just like shelf after shelf after, one of the things that struck me was like, he had like 40 Lee Konitz CDs.
Wow, 40.
Yeah, everything that's
Hey, I'm going to actually play one more. I'm going to play track 19, which is one of the How High the Moon suite, the Prez suite.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to play that because I'm interested.
When you fall into heaven, do you land on a spot where wandering stops? When you fall into paradise, is it merely nice like an award ceremony, or a device to cut through grease and finally address everything by its first name? Equality, a tapestry, gypsy fortune teller, crystal globe popped on shawl-top tablecloth. Author the next eternity on a rolled-out road map where every rest stop is arresting, compelling. Heavenly sights are gold circles on a scroll. I roll with the road and flow with the going. When you check into heaven, is it carte blanche, livre noir, or neither nor, just one open door after another, and you can choose any room, champagne in an ice bucket, nice flowers on the table, or tequila on a mantilla with a pile of limes and rock salt salute shot glass rim with vim and rigor, or overflowing bowls of chop suey, pink with jumbo shrimp, hugged by glistening greens and plump mushrooms, served by ladies in slit silk skirts, buttoned in jade and bowed in gold, pouring the best gin berries conceivable. Believe it, sorrow cools it in nomad's land. Kisses long as spring, and everybody sings sweet like lady. Can't you see? When you walk out the bronze revolving door into floor after floor of better and better, no need for names like heaven or paradise. Instead, play nice for everyone. Throw delicate flowers in warm showers of coming honey into a choir of fine ladies, playful and sunny, in room after room where you never see blue. It's all umber, you dig. It's all a play of pearls, sweet, pink, pussy lips blow three little words into goose-down swords, stabbed with arrows, Cupid silks our loins with, Eros gives up the weight and freight, keeping us back. When you walk out of the picture, no longer there in a chair by a window or edge of a bed, everyone instead becomes memory in heaven. Blow, so, cool, club walls melt, hot chocolate over all the cats in ecstasy. Dig a one and only and keep it going like dervishes in one blur of fur and skin. Wins the race over and over again. When you disappear, fear disappears with you. When you leap into space beyond belief, free of it, articulate, able to say it all, who's there behind the door? Johnny Deathbed or Jesus Christ slicing oranges and pears into a white plate, passed my way as an invite to stay. When you say goodbye, you're already looking to say hello to anyone going along a road of light like lava. Angels tap dance over and out, Jim. It's simply zipped and done with wings and mirrors. Was there too in Hoodoo's doing as a kid, an old man to dig out what's unseen sees, and what sees is blind, and ears draw it to heart, heart's hot curtains to love's hot butter knife, slices certainty out of the picture into melody you never see, but always know. When the maestros come back on stage to encore the impossible, I'm back in Woodville, being born August 27, 1909.
Oh my God, that's great.
So
Wow.
I want to show you something. That's from a book. David wrote a book, No Eyes, Lester Young. It was his tribute. It's a book of poems about the last year of well, it's not about the last. It's about Lester Young's life, but it's focused on his last year. And I want to read this one poem because I thought this was it's shortened. They come for something else. JATP, honk honk with flip. Tenors locked in hype. People get gassed. $50,000 the first year. Not bad for being good. He's talking about what he was referring to. Is the Jazz Philharmonic. Flip Phillips was one of the big tenor player stars of Jazz Philharmonic. In an interview with Flip, he told me that his line was, "If you want to make $1, you got to make the people holler." So that's a references to Flip Phillips there. And speaking of laughing, Matt, why don't you hold up that picture on the back of that CD?
I was going to do that actually. I love that.
David just told a joke. David just told a joke and he killed me, man. And there I have my mouth wide open. David.
Fantastic picture. That was so cool, man.
Yeah. David and I were like brothers separated at birth, man. We met, 4 or 5 years before he died, and it was an honor. It's an honor to know him, and it's an honor now to know his wife, his widow Julie. She's a dear friend of mine. Yeah, thanks, Cathy, for playing that. That's really I treasure this. This is a wonderful date. And I got to, one of the things that came up on this, and your friend and mine, Pat Britt, you remember Pat?
Yeah, I do. Love Pat Britt.
I'm sure you did hear he just died, right? Did you know that?
No.
Yeah,
No.
February 5th, he died.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Long illness, yeah. But he said he liked that record the sound of my horn a lot better on that record than he did on the band record. One of the reasons was that I recorded that on one of those fabulous RCA. The guy that recorded it, Doug, I can't remember Doug's last name. He came down from Oregon to Oakland. We recorded that at David and Julie's house, as it turned out. But we had one of those fabulous RCA ribbon mics that are,
Yeah.
$5,000 or whatever. If you wanted to get one of those, it's
Doug Cole.
Doug Cole, right?
Doug Cole, yeah. And on the record, I like, there's like a paragraph of what he used. That was really nice.
Yeah, right. No, it was a truck full. It was a
But
truck.
it sounds great. Yeah, it's great
No,
quality.
beautiful.
I have to say I'm sorry about Pat Britt. I really, for those of you, probably a lot of people don't know who Pat Britt was, but he was a really respected musician, and he had bands that he put together, and he probably did studio work, right?
No, I don't know. He didn't. He didn't do any studio work.
No, really, just live.
Only on his own records. But he also produced though, right? He was the producer behind Catalyst Records, which is
Oh,
long gone. But in the 70s, he was in LA and he recorded LA, and since he grew up in the Bay Area, he recorded LA and San Francisco musicians. Flip Nunez Flip Nunez and George Mirabus were two keyboard players. He recorded Mark Levine, Don Menza, um, several Sonny Stitt records. Not that he was from LA, but
I
Frank
see.
Spiteri.
Yeah,
He
right.
recorded a lot of people from LA, which was really cool at the time.
No, I didn't know that about him. I saw him kind of recently. Last time I saw him a few times in the past year. I think I saw him at Gene Stone's memorial, the drummer, right? And
Right.
also Bob. I don't know if you knew Bob Irvine. Did you know him?
I didn't, but I got to meet him a little bit. Um, I got to meet him a little bit. So
Yeah,
yeah,
he was an interesting guy. Lived around the corner from me, and he played some piano. He had like little sessions at his house for years with some of those guys,
didn't know that.
and he also collected art, like to sell. And he suddenly died
Right.
like 6 or 7 months ago, and I think it was. And then, yeah, so I went over to his house. His brother was there, and somehow I found out about it and went over and bought a few pieces of the art and took some musical stuff for people. And Pat was there too. And so
Yeah,
yeah, that was
we had a
this
couple.
year.
There were right. I remember there were a couple of. Pat had a couple of drawings by Julie McDonald. Do you remember her name?
I don't.
Julie McDonald was an LA artist who knew Bird, and
Oh, oh,
so she knew Bird in the 40s and the 50s, uh, um, and she did a couple of drawings of his. Then they were trying to see if they could sell these drawings, and Bob Irvine was involved with that, and I got to meet him a little bit, and he told me about all the stuff. He had, who was it he loved? Was it Peter Max? He had somebody. He had tons of art.
probably, yeah,
Then he had
yeah.
all kinds of many LPs with people that had autographed. I remember him. He was an interesting
Yeah,
guy. Yeah.
yeah, he was interesting. Yeah, he had a lot of he had a really nice piano there, and he had a lot of like new instruments that I guess he just, bought and kept around, kind of cheap but new. And people who came over could, if you
Right.
wanted to play a
Right.
sax,
Yeah.
he had a
Yeah.
sax and, that kind of stuff. He was cool. Hey, I wanted to ask you if you ever knew Michael C. Ford from
Oh
here.
yeah. No, I know. Ford and I. How did we run into each other?
And let me just tell people listening,
Yeah,
Michael
yeah,
C.
please,
Ford
yeah.
actually was a guest. He was a guest on my show, and he's a great poet, kind of along these lines. I think the David Meltzer kind of
Yes,
lines, right?
yeah,
And
jazz.
cool guy. I've known him for years, and he was even in a group that I formed called Alone Together, which had usually 4 or 5 singers in it, and then we added Michael actually in it too for a show. It was great.
Wow. Yeah, I wrote about Michael for the Times. Um, I have a great Michael C. Ford quote. He was out your way during the horrific earthquake. The what they call it,
The Northridge earthquake, or
yeah, no, the one that destroyed the 134 or whatever it was out. Uh,
out north in the north, yeah, like going
he
to Santa Clarita and stuff.
he said that I think his wall caved in or something. He said he thought the earthquake. He called the earthquake the devil on drums. No, I
That's
mean
funny.
I was in Marina Del Rey adjacent, and the house really shook, and that was Marina Del Rey, man, and that was so far. The epicenter was out your way, right? It was Northridge. That was where the epicenter was. It really, and I found out the thing that was interesting. I found out that the reason that Santa Monica had so much trouble was that Santa Monica and Marina Del Rey, that it was because it was filled in. It was not built. Those areas, those areas are are based on soft earth filled on top of the whatever it was down below. And so when you have hard rock,
Yeah.
earthquake waves go right through hard rock. They don't do anything. They just go right through. But when you have soft, it's like this, and that's
Oh,
why there was so much damage yeah, it was the Northridge quake. It was the Northridge quake.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, it was.
yeah. I lived in Sun Valley, Sun Valley at the time, which is basically North Hollywood,
Right.
and it was it was dramatic, but actually our house didn't get destroyed. Everything in it fell. I had, perfume bottles fall and all that shit, but there were things inside that fell, but the building itself actually just kind of rode the wave. It was quite dramatic because it was really wavy, you know?
That was a bad quake, man. That was
Yeah.
the one where Hank Mancini told me, Hank Mancini told me that he had a fabulous wine collection. He lived up
Oh,
Mandeville Canyon. He had fabulous wine collection. Lost every bottle.
oh God.
No, that was, but he did live to tell the story. I'll tell you,
Yeah, yeah,
Hank Mancini. I got to talk to Hank a couple of times. He was a very nice cat, and
yeah.
he did an interview with me from where was it? Oh God, Switzerland. Wherever Pink Panther was shot? That's why can't I remember where? Anyway, he was at his home, at one of his homes in Switzerland. We did a interview for the Times, and Kath, it was only a few months before he died, and he did this
Oh, wow.
long interview. He was such a beautiful guy, man. Hank Mancini was he's one of the real dolls of our earth. That guy, he was really something.
What
Dreamsville,
did you what
Dream
did you do the interview for?
Times.
Oh, okay.
No, we haven't talked about that, and I'll just shortly say the thing about the Times, writing for the Los Angeles Times, was that was a key that unlocked any door. Hi, this is Zan Stewart. I'm from the Los Angeles Times. Would you like to do a story? Yes. Could you call it? And also at that time, I got to call the switchboard for my home in West LA somewhere. And the switchboard would call any place. They would call Switzerland. and it must be on the line. Yeah, no, that was something. I wasn't, I think about this. No, I didn't further my career as a professional musician, but I got to write about so many people, and I got to help people out. I got to
Yeah.
help my whole point of view in writing about, like I said, from the first story that I wrote for the News and Santa Barbara News and Review was about how to get people interested in jazz. That was the point behind every story I ever wrote, as like people get up, if nothing else, go turn on the radio, you know, but better yet, see if you can get up and go out to the club where this person is appearing. Because that's the way the stories that I wrote for both the Times and when I went to New Jersey in 2002 and wrote for the Newark Star Ledger for 10 years, not 10 years, 8.5. It was a story of so-and-so is appearing this week,
Yeah.
and so the idea was go see somebody,
Yeah.
and I really like that, man. I mean, I like that I was able. Ruth Price, singer, great singer, ran the Jazz Bakery. There's another one that's, oh boy, that's a loss. She told me
Yeah.
that when I wrote a good review, the phone would ring 9 o'clock in the morning. Day the paper came out, if I wrote a good review, the phone would start ringing. People want to come down. Hey, man,
There you go.
there you go. Did my thing.
Very valuable.
Well, this music has to be celebrated, Cathy. This is America's classical music. This is priceless music. Look at the
Yeah.
records that we have from years back that never get old.
Yeah.
They never get old. It's like, man, Barry Harris said it, bebop is the music of the future. And there's a lot of ways you can interpret that and think about that. But I think, what in many ways what he was saying, or the way I see it, it's the music of now. Bebop is always, jazz is always the music of now. It's about how people are feeling right now. And that's really special, man. Listen to
So
you.
would you
Huh?
so would you say that the present jazz that's being put out by probably younger musicians, would you call that bebop, or would you what
No,
or
no, I mean, some. It depends.
yeah,
You had Greg Abate on,
yeah,
he's a jazz musician. I mean, he's a bebop musician, right? Bebop,
yeah,
I think that, I mean, there's a tape up now. There's a Barry Harris video on YouTube where he said he's angry, that's not, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, that's not jazz, not, because bebop is a particular language, and it comes from, it comes out of Lester Young into Charlie Parker, and then it's developed Busy Gillespie, Thelonious Monk. It's a particular language, and it's based so much on linear flowing melodies. That's what I see it as, flowing melodies. And I don't hear that a lot, but then I'm a bad dude in many ways. I don't listen to a lot of contemporary stuff. I don't. I listen to older music and music I'm trying to learn. And it's often older music. Older
do
guy.
you like John Coltrane?
At points. Of course, at points. Yeah. I was listening to one of his tunes the other day that I've always liked. Up Against the Wall. I think it was originally Up Against, apostrophe GAINST, but it's just an old blues. Babadoo, see, babadoo, but I can't sing it now. We can't get the key. Babadoo, babadoo, bob. Anyway, it's a blues. It was very. Train was, man, the ballad album is gorgeous. I thought he took it for me. He went. He was beyond. I could not keep up with him. I heard him twice at the latter stages. I heard the band. I heard him with the quartet at Shelley's Manhole. I heard him with the quartet at the Monterey Jazz Festival when Eric and Wes Montgomery sat in. Eric Dolphy. But I heard him twice with the sextet with Pharoah Sanders, Alice Coltrane, his wife, on piano. Elvin was gone, so it was Rashid Ali, and he would play a melody. He played the melody, say like of big tune, My Favorite Things. But then after they played the melody, he was gone, man.
Yeah.
He was on it, and that was I always had trouble with that, man. That was I don't know. Yeah, I was always a Sonny fan. Sonny was my guy from Sonny Rollins from way back, and Train was fabulous. Train was fabulous, man. But I was a Sonny guy. That's what I was.
Yeah. I saw that
But
movie,
what about?
Following the Train or something, the train.
Oh, right,
Uh,
Yeah. Chasing
it
the
was
train.
good. Chasing the Train. It was really good, and it explained because I like you. I think my favorite. So Coltrane had these three phases of his life and his music, and I was always a fan of the middle phase, which was closer to what you described. It was more like bebop. It was melodic, and it was wonderful, wonderful relationships within the music with the musicians. And then he had whatever he had, a spiritual realization, and went into this real far out phase. And Sonny Rollins, I agree. I mean, even me, who's not a sax player at all, but Sonny Rollins, I always just really was drawn to his playing. Wonderful, wonderful player. Wonderful.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that Coltrane makes a Love Supreme in 65 and he's dead in 67, right? I think he's dead in
I
67,
think so, yeah.
liver cancer. um, Love Supreme is not that far out of a record. It's kind of interesting. I think the motivation was that for him was that his spirituality, his belief in God got him off of heroin.
Yeah.
And he was a bad heroin addict. At one point, Miles fired him.
Yeah.
Miles fired him because he was nodding out on the stand,
Yeah.
and he cleaned up, but his body wasn't strong enough to withstand whatever it is that
Yeah.
it was. What about? Let's flip it for a second. Let's talk. So, who are the singers that you have been so deeply involved with in terms of inspirations?
Well, it's really changed over the years, and mostly, well, first of all, when I was coming up with my dad, I was listening to his collection, but luckily it was Ella, and he had no Carmen and Sarah, strangely, but Ella and or Billie Holiday or
Right.
Dinah Washington. He had none of that. He just had Ella and Rosemary Clooney and Judy Garland and the High-Lows. He was kind of straight jazz, Stan Kenton. So that's what I grew up listening to because that was his collection. And then, of course, got into the 50s and 60s of what was happening in the music, in the general pop music. So then I started, of course, enjoying the funk people, Aretha and Chaka Khan, people like that. But then in college, I was listening a lot to instrumental music, and I was listening to lots of West Coast jazz. That's what I was really drawn to, and Miles. I played Miles every morning when I woke up in college. I'd put on a Miles record to welcome in the day, and And then I started discovering like Weather Report and Bob Moses, this music that was a little more space, broad out this way. And then I guess over the next bunch of years, um, there was nobody that was singularly inspirational to me, but it was like, oh, I really like this singer, I really like that singer. I know who I don't like, and I know why, which is basically when they're not really organic and what you're describing, like inside the music and communicating on this language. I don't really love, and I've been like this for years, super, super arranged stuff because it's too strict. And it maybe if it sets up something like a really beautiful palette and then goes somewhere, like actually my friend Dan is asking what you think of Benny Maupin. That's a great example. Every time I've seen Benny Maupin, which has been a number of times because for a while he was playing a lot in LA, he played the same songs. He played like the same songs, but it was a different experience, because it was now and it was, reflective of now. And that was interesting to me. That struck me as very significant. Um, and I've seen a few concerts recently where I've been really blown away by singers. I saw Dee Dee Bridgewater in a duo with Bill Charlap.
Oh wow.
Zan, it's
Yeah.
like you listen and you go, I want to be them,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
so much history, they're really mature and they start off with songs and then they just turn on a dime, both of them. And so much joy and humor but incredible technique underneath. But that's not what's first on your mind. And this young singer, 22 years old, who definitely was born, before she was somebody else, Samara Joy.
No, I don't know her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's another one who's like, wow. And she sang with Tamir Hendelman. And that was interesting because Tamir is such a brilliant player. But that was, again, in a duo format with a great singer. The musician has, I don't know, they're brought to a different kind of sensation and level. So I've been listening to that. And then singers like Lisa Fisher, who was in 20 Feet from Stardom. She sang background for the Stones and all kinds of people. But her own show is with a guitar trio that's also has these cool arrangements of, kind of pop jazz kind of stuff. And she is very free. And again, she has this technique underneath. She has a range like this, joy, humor, musical. That's to me, that's what's inspirational. When I see singers like that, I can stick around. I can be very joyous and like, oh yeah, this is good. I don't think about myself. I just think, I'm involved with them, but it makes me want to sing.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. No, that's beautiful, man. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of there's no end to the number of people making music, so trying to keep track is not easy. It's not easy, and
Pretty mind blowing. My
especially
friend Dan, who I mentioned, he and I, before the pandemic, we were going out together like 4 times a week to see music. And now it's almost back like that, isn't it, Dan? I mean, we've been going out, gosh, we saw a really great group. I think you would have loved it. Bob Bowman, do you remember him, the bass player?
yeah, sure, sure, yeah, right.
Steve Houghton on drums, Josh Nelson on piano, Bob Shepard, and Clay Jenkins on horns and Larry Coons.
Wow.
That was another brilliant example of jazz at its best. They had songs and arrangements, and then they just played, and there was, of course, brilliant technique with all of them, but that wasn't at all what it was about. It was about this communication and touching and jumping off from points and everybody supporting, and oh, it was just, I'll have to share that music with you. Really fabulous.
Where'd you see them?
Well, we saw them at Sam First, which is a new club near LAX.
Oh, good.
And
Oh, I remember reading about that. May I read it?
yeah, and this is the record. Tomorrow is not promised.
Oh, cool.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just really, I mean,
Yeah.
these guys, they're all so beautiful. And Bob Bowman is just such an unusual bass player. You know, he doesn't play what you expect. I talked to Josh about that because Josh Nelson, I was pretty blown away by what Josh Nelson was playing on piano. I've heard him and recorded with him, and he's sensitive and smart, but I've never heard him sound like that. It was, as I said before, it was like a drawing out. There were points where you could explode off of, and everybody was supportive. Oh, it's great. What do you think of Benny Maupin?
I always thought Benny Maupin was terrific. A modern player, contemporary, the modern thing. I always loved his bass clarinet playing. Beautiful bass clarinet player, and
Yeah.
a very interesting, solid tenor saxophonist. I guess I first heard him with Herbie, I think.
Uh-huh.
Headhunters, wasn't
Yeah.
he was on the first Headhunters, I think. But then there was also, he did those wonderful records with McCoy. He was on Tender Moments, maybe. He was part of McCoy's circle for a while, and I always liked Benny, man. I thought he was and I always liked him as a person. You know, we did a couple of stories for the Times, I think.
Yeah. Nice
Yeah.
person.
Solid.
Yeah, really a good person. I'm gonna have to send you um, a track. Well, or I'll send you the whole record actually. Um, it was on. It was on the Jazz Chamber record that I did a few years ago.
Yeah.
Chamber Orchestra.
I have
And
that.
oh, you do?
I haven't played it yet, but I have it. Yeah.
Oh well. Uh, what's the name of it? Something Prez. Message to Prez. That's Benny Maupin's tune that I just fell in love with. And just a great head. And I have this improvisational vocal group. You know, we've been together 8 years, 9 years, and we get together and we form stuff out of nothing. And then, it's really fun. Anyway, I involved them on this song, and we got Benny to play bass clarinet through the whole thing. Really great. Oh my God, it was so great. As a matter of fact, what's a little funny story that you'll appreciate is when we hired him and he was there, and it was funny, he was kind of playing straight, he didn't really, know what we wanted. And he said, well, I don't want to really play out, on your record. And I said, no, that's actually the point. Yes, play Benny Maupin on this record. That's what I want. So it's probably one of my favorite songs on the record, actually. Really fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Message to Prez.
Message to Prez.
Yeah.
Which brings up an oddball memory, I suppose, but I remember hearing Bob Mincer, great tenor saxophonist who's now in LA, playing at at NAMM. He played at NAMM, it must have been around 2000 down in Orange County. And he sat in with some band playing, I'm pretty sure it was Lester Leaps In, which is a president,
Yeah.
that's the same as, and Bob Bob sounded so much like Prez, man. It was just amazing because Bob is pretty much he comes out of Coltrane in many ways. That's where, but man, that was wonderful. Bob's a pal. I was lucky. One of the things I was lucky, New York, being in New York was something else. Being in New Jersey, but you're in New York because I was right next door. I was 15 months. I got to hear Bob Pitzer's big band on numerous occasions, and boy, that was a real joy. That guy can write for big band, man. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That band's played here a lot, and he plays with a lot of different really great situations, which is it's always really great to hear him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about I'm making a new record, a no net record,
Oh, really?
and yeah, a few really great horn players. Bob Shepard, who's really, nobody's like him. He's really great. He's like a real artist. He really like, is great. His images are great. And then Alex Budman, do you know him? He also has a big band
I
that
know
he
that.
writes for.
I don't know Alex.
Terrific player. And also Keith Fidmont.
Mhm.
Yeah, with beautiful tone, Keith Vidmont. Oh man, really beautiful sound. So yeah, we were talking about, you know, the subtleties, the difference in horn players, especially. What it's probably tone. Well, of course, a point of view makes a difference, but as a matter of fact, Bob and I talked about this. I interviewed him too, and he talked a lot about tone, and how important it was. But it is for a sax player, right?
It's,
Tone.
it's it, man. Um, I was watching I didn't see it live, but I was watching your Robert Kyle show.
Yeah.
And Robert and I don't really know each other, but we share some common legacy. He studied with Phil Sobel in person.
Uh,
I studied with a student of Phil, one of the major students of Phil Sobel, Charlie Arena. And
oh, he was great.
oh yeah,
Charles.
Charlie
Ooh.
Arenas. Charlie's not a Charlie's a great player who is so under the radar. It's almost like he doesn't. I think he's got a gig now in Culver City. Uh,
Oh,
he
really?
yeah,
That's nice.
there's some place in Culver. I think he's playing weekly. He told me not recent.
I
Anyway,
gotta go listen.
the my world changed, and but this was partly connected to Robert in a way, but it was before that. When I met Toshigaki Yoshi and Lou Tabakin in Monterey in '75. We became friends, and so I got to see their band a lot when it was out in LA. And Mike Price was their lead trumpet player, got to be a friend of mine, and he told me about a guy named Victor Morosco, who is now in Florida, but was then in the Valley. And Victor was a Juilliard guy, but he was known as being a great teacher. And I went to Vic, and he says, "Play me something." So I played him around midnight, and I finished, and one of these classic lines, right? Do you have any idea how that thing's supposed to sound? It's like, well,
Oh.
well, I guess because what was happening, Cathy. I'd finished school. I remember being in a practice room up at Santa Barbara UCSB. I was trying to go back. After I finished my bachelor's, I was going to go back and take music. I started, and I had to do it as a clarinet major because there was no saxophone. There was no sax, and I studied with Jim. I'm not gonna remember Jim's name. Oh my God.
Not Snadero, not him, right?
Uh,
Jim
no, not
Snadero.
Schneider. Jim Schneider. I studied with Jim back in New Jersey on LA. Back at no. Oh man. His father was a big studio musician. He was the number one clarinetist in LA. Anyway, he was on the staff at the UCSB, and so I remember going in the practice room, not with my clarinet, but with my tenor, and playing long tones that I just couldn't stand the sound, man. It just was not. And so I went to see Victor Morosco, and he showed me the classic technique, which is that you put pressure from the side, and the lower lip, lower jaw, and the upper lip and teeth are just the cementing, and so what that led to was what Charlie got from Phil Sobel, which is what's called firm ah, which is the idea that you press when you say ah, except you can't do it because my face is like this, but ah, you're pressing from the side of your lips and side of your mouth. And then I found out later from Grant Stewart back east that people like Coleman Hawkins and Ben Webster called it a firm ooh, but it's the same idea. It's pressing from the side, and that allows the horn to open up and speak. And so
Yeah.
tone is, well, it's the same thing with a voice, man. If you don't sound good, you're not going to want to do it, and nobody else is going to want to hear you, right? I mean, for me, that was a huge door opener to have my sound open up. That was really something.
I hear you. I'm a constant student right now. I have two teachers, and which I really like because they're basically on the same track, but they're coming from their own points of view. But I find together that I'm getting what I really need, and it's very exciting. Like for me, right now I don't know if I can even explain it well. If you see somebody like Cecile McLaurin-Salvant, also Samara Joy too, but when you see Cecile sing, it's like this is a container, technically speaking, right? This is just a container, and the air is so easily going by the vocal cords, and the vocal cords are just so happy, and they're doing their thing. They're closing and holding, and that's it. And then there's no stress above, so the resonance is just traveling up. No matter what note it is, she could sing the highest note or the lowest note right after each other, and I think in my practice, I'm getting into that feeling. It's actually strange because it's a closed off feeling, where I've been thinking, and this is why lessons are so cool, even for older people, because I've been thinking all my life that, it's real open inside, for the resonance, but actually I think it's a little different. Now I think it's like, well, first of all, the container goes higher than I thought, basically. And so the container goes here. So it's not just like open and free. It's open and free, but it's in the container, I don't know if I explained that well, but.
No, but it's an interesting concept. I mean, it's something you'd have to think about. I heard you talking with Robert about breathing, and I'm just wondering. So, do you think about diaphragmatic breathing at all? Is that part of your technique to think about taking air into your diaphragm and not your lungs?
Well, first of all, I mean, that is a very big subject, and a lot of people talk about this differently. And training, like especially classical training, is, very much training in the breath. Right now, both of my teachers are kind of leading in the same area. I never got too much information in my lessons over the years about breathing, and maybe that's because I wasn't breathing badly, so they weren't like focusing on it. But basically, I don't think about taking air into my diaphragm because, of course, air doesn't go into the diaphragm. But I feel like when you breathe in, the diaphragm goes down, and the guts push out so that the lungs can open up more and fill with air. So, but that doesn't have to be this painful or huge effort action. When we're speaking, we're doing that all the friggin' time, you know. I take a breath and I could talk for a long time on one small breath,
Right, right,
you know.
right,
Um, but there's a balance of those things for each person, and the information about that there is a balance between these things is the same for everybody, but how each person is built and thinks and produces is different. So that ends up being different. And that, like
right,
when you're a teacher, as you know, when you're a teacher, you really have to be empathetic and really get into the student's reality because of what I just said. It's not just the facts, ma'am. It's how each person is handling that and experiencing it and producing it, right?
right, right. Yeah. No, no, it's very interesting.
It is interesting. This is why I like teaching. This particular thing. I really there's something really interesting about getting into people's realities and helping them from their point of view, you know, get into this information and having the penny drop and seeing them expand, you know. I think that's kind of
Right, right.
thrilling as a teacher,
No,
you
it,
know.
no, it really is. I mean, I was thinking, for me to go from writing for the LA Times to teaching saxophone it's teaching is an honor, man. Teaching is a real honor to be able to, transmit information. And then, yeah, you said like to watch somebody open up, to watch somebody to observe, be there observing someone getting better, improving because of what you have said.
Yeah.
How that's so. I mean, I think one of the things I do think about sometimes is like, um, we're the channelers, and we are channeling music, and we channel it to other people, and we're also like the people in Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 who were memorizing the books because all the books were being burned. We're keeping a certain kind of music alive. That's one of the things we're trying. We're bringing, and it's classic music. The greatest jazz artists are great classical, in the terms that we classical, a la Mozart, a la Bartok, that kind of classical. They fit right in. Sarah Vaughan, what'd she have? 4 octaves, something that's just phenomenal, right? I mean, it's like, whoa. I lucked out, man. I got to see her twice with Basie. Oh boy, that was great. 3 times, actually, 3 times. Yeah. But anyway,
I only saw her live late in her life, and that was when she had let her training just go away, you know.
yeah,
She was really, relaxing at that point, like, yeah, fuck it, And but she was classically trained originally, and yeah, she was really something. Carmen, I think, I think out of those group of singers that I was able to see, I was probably most impressed with Carmen. It was funny, during college, I thought Carmen was, I couldn't listen to Carmen because her intonation drove me crazy. Then years later, I didn't hear the intonation problem. And what was most impressive was her phrasing. You know, like in all the years that I've had so many singers come here and give workshops at my house, everybody said, don't interrupt the sentence, don't stop in the middle or anywhere. But Carmen could interrupt anywhere, and you were hanging on it, because her point of view of what she was saying was so committed and full of integrity. So you were riding along on that wave, and she could stop anywhere.
she's a piano player.
And so was Sarah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sarah. I mean, there's that great picture, right, of the Earl Hines band. You know,
Uh-huh.
and Sarah's on one side, Hines, Earl's on the other side, and there's Dizzy and Bird are in the band too, man. Yeah. You know you know, but that I think those artists inspire, continue to inspire, and lead to, you know, moving performances in the present time.
Yeah. I want to play something again. By the way, my friend Dan gave me polka dots and moonbeams on your record, but do you want me to play what you sent me instead? Like, you know.
But that's fine, man. The polka dots and moonbeams is a good one.
Okay, cool. Let's see. I'm going to share. And I'm going to go to polka dots and moonbeams here. Yeah. I'm going to stop it just because we don't have a lot of time, so I want to talk. But yeah, that's really pretty. And I was telling Zan I really love this picture of him. Really beautiful.
Thank you.
Um, so this record, uh, did I read that you said it said for this first recording? Is this your first record
That's
or?
my first record. That's my first
Oh,
record, and so far, I got it. Another one needs to be put out. I've only done one, so I got a bunch of tunes that I would like to record. So you know,
yeah. I like your acknowledgments here. A hearty hug to friends whose longtime champion of my musical efforts feels like gold. Gloria Dinacochi, Susie Hansen, which, by the way, is Bevan Manson's sister-in-law,
that's true.
Vicky Pedrini, yay, Vicky, Coleman Andrews, Ellie Baidu, Julie Kelly, Wes Johnson, Valerie Bishop, Barbara Brighton, and Richard Dessert.
Yeah.
And which is, and it's nice that Zan is a jazz journalist, so he gets to write his liner notes.
Yeah, you keep
Right?
yeah, right. Yeah, but anybody can write their own liner notes, Kath. You know that. You wrote your own liner notes. You're not a
I know. I know. I have written my own liner notes.
yeah.
I realized very late in life that I'm a control freak. I didn't realize that. But all these things that I do, it's actually a reflection of that.
Well, everything we do is a reflection of who we are. So that's just the truth. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah. Who
I
did the artwork on that
That's
CD
Wes
cover?
Johnson. That's Wesley E. Johnson, who is a
Beautiful.
oh man, I don't know what to say about Wes. I met Wes first in the '60s, and we got to be very good friends. He was maybe my best friend. Um, I got to see him work, Kathy. He had a storefront studio and it just real typical. I don't know. Shared. He had a storefront in Ventura, California, on Ventura Avenue. He lived in the storefront. No bed. I think he had a pad in the back. Cigarette butts everywhere. Paint all over the place. And the walls, each wall had like three or four 6x6 canvases that he was painting. And I
Huh.
felt I got to go there two or three times, and I felt like I was walking in and seeing like Van Gogh or somebody, man.
Yeah.
It was really something, man. And he was he
This
was
is really.
never he was never really he was never really known as like he should have been. I lucked out. I found out there was a book being put together. I wonder, do I have it out easy to get to? L.A. Rising. There was um, there was an LA artist named Ed Kleinholz who was famous for uh, I think he was a sculptor and he did a sculpture of a Dodge, like a 38 Dodge with the door open and the people are screwing there's a couple screwing in the back seat. And it's just I think it's owned by LA the LA County Museum of Art. And
Yeah.
his wife Lynn Kienholz was putting together a book of LA artists, LA area artists, and somehow I read about it in the New York Times when I was back in New Jersey, and I turned her on to Wes, and Wes got into the book, which was really wonderful. Along with all these other great LA artists, and um, but he's still not known, man. He This was one of those people that was under the radar, and also he was in Ojai and in Ventura, and I think back on my musical life. When you're in Ojai, you don't have Bob Shepard teaching you saxophone. He's not there. There is no Bob Shep, there is no Coleman Hawkins living in, so you don't get that
Opportunity.
opportunity. You don't
Yeah.
get that opportunity. And Wes decided not, he was, for this and that reason, he was a homebody. He stayed in Ventura County all his life, and he painted, man, those pictures he did, I was talking about, they went out the door as fast as he could finish them. Bam, bam. And it's just amazing. He had one major show that I know of, and that was the Santa Barbara Museum of Art. He had a one-man show up there. But otherwise, he didn't. He was just another artist who lived by selling his paintings out the front door, man. And anyway, and
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, he's just, I don't have a camera going around the house, but I got a big Wes Johnston over here. I got a 6x6 over there. And this is something he did. This is a technique it's called eglomosaic, where he scratches the back of a mirror, and then he paints out. So you're seeing through the back of the mirror, and he's all over my house. He's everywhere. I have probably I don't know 10 pieces of his up right now, something like that. It's very inspiring, very comforting. It's very comforting. He gives me a lot of warmth. Loved him deeply. Yeah.
Well, that's lovely. Yeah, it's so great when art, supports your house. Henry Franklin has a very interesting home. I haven't been to it, but I saw it when I was interviewing him. Wow, he lives a little further out of, like east, and apparently the outside of his house is painted in all these different colors, and the inside is has all this different kinds of art, that he loves, and very interesting. Another friend of mine, Mark Van Aken, a drummer, his uncle was very famous painter, Van Aken, and he has a lot of his uncle's paintings. After he died, he acquired them, and they're beautiful, just really beautiful. Wow. And so, yeah, and he sells them occasionally, but his walls are covered with the art. It's quite beautiful and very inspirational.
Oh, it is. No, I think that in my life, my great fortune in being around wonderful art, it formed my life in many ways. It's a formation part of my life. It is.
Yeah. Joyce Glasgow, who's a jazz fan and an artist up in Seattle, she wants to know if you're currently writing articles.
No, I'm on. I don't. I don't know where the writing is right now. I stopped. I published my last public piece on July 1st, 2010, when I left the Star Ledger, which was the main newspaper in New Jersey. I was back there for 8.5 years, and I just wanted to play. And I come out, I came to the Bay Area because this was my mother's chosen place. We were supposed to move she wanted, when my father, and when the family left LA in 55, she wanted to move to the Bay Area. My father moved to Ojai because his parents were there. My mother's parents were gone. But anyway, I came out here in hopes of having some sort of a career as a musician. Very tough. You come in late in town, man. You're late in town, right? You're at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been the same in Los Angeles, even though I'm an LA native. I mean, I wasn't known as a musician. Besides, I come to LA and I got to deal with Bob Shepard and Brian Schwartz. I mean, this goes on and on and on. Doug Webb. I mean, come on. Have you seen any of these multi-edited videos that Doug has done with the arrangements by Lat McIntosh, where he's playing
Oh,
every instrument under the sun. If you go to YouTube, they're up there. He was talking to you about them during his show with you. He's done 3 or 4 now with Ladd. Ladd has written or arranged pieces for him, and he plays 20 or 30 instruments on them. It's amazing what, but anyway, that's, you have to deal with, how you're not gonna play, they're gonna call Doug Webb. So I am, it keeps going around in my head. Am I gonna write? And if I were to write, I wouldn't write articles. I would start a blog, and actually I've written some blog pieces that I've not put up yet. I've got a blog site. I still haven't done anything with it. I feel like I'm going to write something. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, the reality of it, if you've not been a professional musician from the get-go, then breaking in is very, very challenging, because everywhere you go, up here, there's Noel Jukes, there's Bob Ken Matsu, there's a whole slew of musicians that are just super, and so they're the ones that are getting called. So I've had to work as a leader, and now there's no place to work. Basically, a 3 places. There's so many things shut down. So I'm probably going to write something, but we'll see. I've got a box of interviews that probably should get out, and I don't know. But Joyce, no, I'm not writing any articles right now.
hey, I want to tell you, I should send you one. I don't know if you saw this promotion.
No, it's because we didn't talk about that, and I bought it. I bought it online.
Oh,
I bought an online version, and
oh, right. I remember. Yeah.
yeah, right. And I want to tell you that the first part, I've only read the first part. I read your poem from 2010, and then your philosophy of life, and I thought it was very powerful, and it spoke to you. One thing you kept saying over and over again, which is a very spiritual thing, which is we create our lives. We create our lives. We tell ourselves stories that we make patch them up into our lives. It's really true. So we have the opportunity to alter the story. It's up to us, but it's up to us. But what you wrote in 2010, and I also thought that what you said about, I think you said what you wrote in 2010, that you thought that first when you were when you were 16 years old. And I thought, wow. That's wild. But man, I think that those of us that are drawn toward the spiritual life or toward spirituality, however you want to say it, we're born into it. For me, it was I was born into a Buddhist household. My parents weren't exactly Buddhists, but there was Buddhist scriptures in the house. And my father and mother were both followers of a Indian he called himself a speaker, teacher named Jiddu Krishnamurti. And I heard him when I was 6 years old. I was told first time is, I think that we get the spiritual stuff. It's a gift. It's a gift we get.
Yeah. That makes me so happy that all what you said. That's really great.
Well, that's it. That book is super congratulations, man. I mean,
Thanks.
it's dense. There's a lot. We got into that singing chapter, and that was, it's like, well, okay, I gotta have to digest this a little bit. But yeah, there's some beautiful stuff, Cathy. Well done. Congratulations, man.
Thanks. I mean, the reason why I get into singing, one of them is because that's one of the things I know about, but also through teaching singing, I see all these lessons. And that was kind of the impetus behind the book. This lesson that applies to literally technique literally applies to life and singing jazz. And of course, that's just what I'm into, but everybody's into whatever they're into. And I just wanted to like kind of let people know that there's lessons everywhere, you know. I mean, everything is a lesson if you have that point of view and you can learn from it, you can take it in and grow. Because I think that's why we're here, you know,
Well,
to
you said, like
grow.
you're studying with, you're still studying. We're learners. We're
Yeah,
learners until the last breath, man. And then my feeling is the learning continues after the last breath. But
yeah,
yeah, we're learners. To say you're accomplished or that you've reached I can see we can say you reached a goal, but I wouldn't say it would be the goal because I
yeah,
don't think the goal is reachable. I think you have to keep reaching. You have to keep opening up.
yeah. And probably the goal is that.
Right.
The goal is
Yeah.
keep reaching and opening up. That's actually the goal because there is no stopping point,
Right.
right?
No, see, I've thought for some time now that the gift, in terms of being a musician, the gift is the interest in music. Because if you
Yeah,
don't have the interest in music, then you're not going to want to practice. Because those of us that are practicers know you have to want to do that. You're not going to, I mean, I haven't had that many 5-hour days in my life, and that's been my peak. It's not been 15, 16, but still, if you're going to practice for 5 hours, you love it. That's the reason you don't do it because somebody's over there with a whip.
yeah,
You're doing it because this is what I want to do. And that's
yeah.
what a gift, man. What a gift, but just the gift of me. I think the gift of music alone, Cathy, is just what an amazing, an appreciation of real music. And what was real music? Well, then we start getting into a whole other thing, but
Right. Well, Zan, it's been 2 hours.
been 2 hours and we got another 4 hours to go. I know.
Thanks so much
Hey,
for giving me 2 hours of your
hey,
time. And, you know,
vice versa, man. Vice
been
versa.
great.
Oh, you know, great. No, and I would hope we do it again because I'm sure we got a lot more to talk about. I'd love to talk more about that book. But anyway, Cathy, thank you. Yeah, very much. It was really nice to reach out and to talk about the things that I'm interested in. I mean, I think one of the things about your what you say about the purpose of your hangs is to discuss the life of an artist. And
Yep.
each of us has our own path that we're going down, but it's an artistic, but it's driven by an appreciation, an affinity, and a meeting with the creative process. And that you can't, there's no gift beyond that, man. What a gift that is. I mean, that saves everything. You're saved. That's it. Wow. I get to learn. I get to do something beautiful. Yeah.
You
Amen.
know, it would be really nice to have you as a cohort on a few, like a little series of these kind of things,
No,
and
I would love
invite
to.
people who you want to speak with, you know, and then it would just be nice for a kind of a side series to this noontime hang, you know.
Beautiful. No, I'm down for that, man. Absolutely. And I mean, I hope to get my own thing going and then turn it around, like have you on to hear more about. I mean, I knew you for years. I didn't know you read. I didn't know how long you spent at Berkeley, man. We never talked about that. That's really Berkeley. I guess I should make sure I say it that way. So Lawrence, all right, it's not
Yeah,
Berkeley
right.
UCSB, UCB. So yeah, man. Cheers to you for doing these, man. You're giving a lot of people a chance to express themselves, which is a wonderful thing. Especially to
Thank you.
talk about what we really, because you can't talk to the person on the street about your artistic life.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. but maybe we could. Who knows? But I'll just tell people while you're on. I'm just going to tell people. The reason why I had Zan on a Thursday and not on a Tuesday or Wednesday is because I'm preparing for this new recording, the No Net, and arrangements by John Leftwich, the great bass player, and really beautiful. And if you're in LA, Saturday we're performing in Eagle Rock at a church called St. Bees, which has a jazz series, and it's just 7 to 8:30. St. Bees, the Harmony Room. You can find this all on my website. And also Sunday, if you're here and you're into this kind of thing, there's a hospice that, and you can find this information on my Facebook. But there's a children's hospice that's having a fundraising event on Sunday with jazz people, and it's really nice. And next week I'll be at Catalina's on the 13th, Wednesday, with the No Net. And then the next 2 days we're recording. That's why I've been kind of mishmashing, like putting up my archives except for Zan. And then Monday, just so you know, I have Gerald Clayton on.
Wow. Amen.
And that should be a great talk because Gerald, besides being a brilliant piano player, he's such a nice person. He's from such a great family. You know, that whole family is so real and so nice. John Clayton, Gerald Clayton. Yeah. Yeah. So nice times here.
Amen.
Thanks, Zan.
Thank you, Kath. Thank you very
I
much.
love you. Thank you so
Kath.
much. It's
Yeah,
been a
baby.
wonderful conversation.
Yeah, really enjoyed. All right. See you.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.